You're watching Dog-Eared Musings, and I'm Monica. Today we're going to be talking about the book Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. If you watched my last haul, which I did a month ago, you might remember that I had mentioned wanting to read the book Cloud Cuckoo Land and hearing a lot of people talking about wanting to read the book, but I haven't heard anyone reviewing the book. After getting a lot of people telling me to read the book and to review it, this is my review with my personal opinion on whether or not the book was worth the over 600 pages. So who is Anthony Doerr? Well, he won a Pulitzer Prize in 2015, as well as in 2015 he won the Andrew Carnegie Mellon Award for Excellence in Fiction. My eyes glazed over all the awards that this man has been nominated for and has won. Essentially, he's an award-winning robot who lives in Boise, Idaho. So what is this book about? There are 5 different characters, each spanning time and space, and they're all connected by this one ancient Greek text that's called Cloud Cuckoo Land. Characters in question, there's Anna and Omir, who are characters who are both brought together during the invasion of Constantinople. In the present day, there's Seymour and Zeno. Seymour is a young environmentalist, and Zeno is an old man who is obsessed with Greek text and translating classic Greek literature into English. And these two characters are brought together during an attack in a public library. The final character's name is Constance, and we meet Constance in the distant future, post-apocalyptic America. Constance is one of the final settlers who lives aboard a spaceship traveling around Earth in order to kind of repopulate the Earth post-environmental disaster. Again, all 5 of these characters are all connected by this one text. Doerr's novel explores issues of politics, environmentalism, classism, and shared humanity. And if that description sounds vague, that's because it is, because it's really hard to sum up a over 600 page novel in less than 2 minutes. And believe me, I've tried. So what did I like about this book? Well, I really loved Doerr's writing. There were moments in this novel where I forgot that I was reading a book, just because of how vivid his world building was. There were scenes where I literally felt like I was aboard a spaceship, stuck inside a library, or in ancient Constantinople. And for a huge book, it's really quite a feat to forget that you're reading and that you're not actually in the world that you're transported into. I also will say that there are the chapters that Doerr created, so a lot of them are really short, so just consuming the book itself was really, really easy. So for what I didn't like, well, one thing I will mention is the trigger warnings. Before you read this book, I would just research what those trigger warnings are, because there's really quite a few. And so if that's something that might prevent you from enjoying the book, I would really look into what those trigger warnings are before reading. Another thing that I really had a hard time getting into was Doerr's characters. So his writing was really plot heavy, and I'm somebody who really enjoys a character study. And I think that with Doerr's expansive novel, he writes 5 characters, and in creating these 5 characters that exist in different time zones and even planets, there isn't a lot of time for extensive character development, which is really surprising because this book is over 600 pages long. So you would kind of think that he would have time to develop these characters a little bit more than what their archetypes were. In having so many characters, there were some characters that I was really drawn to where I didn't get as much of a backstory from them that I wanted. And then there were some characters that I wasn't drawn to as much that I learned maybe a little bit more than I wanted to about their character. Another aspect that really pulled me out of enjoying Anthony Doerr's novel was another aspect of character development. It really fell into how some of the characters were represented. One character that really stuck out to me was how Doerr represented Seymour, who was the only neurodivergent character in the book. The journalist Margaret Kingsbury really describes this kind of character trope really well in her article, 9 Ableist Tropes in Fiction I Could Do Without. In this article, Kingsbury really describes tropes in popular fiction that, I mean, as the title says, are very ableist. And in this article, she kind of breaks down Doerr's description of Seymour and how he uses stereotypes to kind of lean into Seymour, and how these stereotypes of the only neurodivergent character in his book, how these stereotypes have the potential of being harmful, especially in describing this community. As someone who isn't neurodivergent, I found this article really helpful when thinking and critically analyzing depictions of neurodivergency in writing. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'll be linking that article in the show notes. And again, I found that article really helpful in my own critical analysis of assessing whether or not a book that I like is ableist or not. And then a final thing that kind of took me out of enjoying the book was the fact that this book felt a little bit pandering. The whole premises of the book is, well, this is a book about a book. In theory, I think there is something novel about reading a book that's about a novel. You see what I did there? But I think in reading books that are about books, which I feel like there's quite a bit of that genre that have come out, I'm wondering, and maybe this is a hot take, if authors have really leaned into this topic because, well, over the past 2 years, there really hasn't been much to do in the real world, so people have really delved into this topic. When thinking about books, I always think about Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada and that infamous line, "Florals for spring, groundbreaking." I feel like books about books is just as equally groundbreaking. Again, that's my hot take. And there are so many books within this genre that I have enjoyed. I think because of the previous aspects that I mentioned, it just didn't feel like the stakes were high enough for this book to be about a book. And I think that this idea also is very similar to another article that I'll have linked in the show notes that was written by Vox that kind of talks about movies about movies and how often those kind of films win awards. All of those negatives aside, I can really understand why someone would enjoy this book. The writing is really quite vivid, and there are scenes in this book that are really beautiful. But for me, there was so much that I left the book wanting that I didn't receive. So what books would I recommend if you really liked Cloud Cuckoo Land? Well, one book is the also recently published book about a book that was written by Ruth Ozeki, The Book of Form and Emptiness. Now that book also has some problems when it comes to like character description and representation, but there have been so many people who have liked that book, and there also have been so many people who haven't liked that book. But I thought that it was worth mentioning that book because, I mean, it is a very popular book that is about a book. Another book that I would recommend that is also about a book is The Book Thief. Now, I haven't read this book in so long, so I feel like after reading after reading Cloud Cuckoo Land, I need to do a revisit to my original favorite book about a book, which is The Book Thief. And I believe that this was written by Marcus Zuzak. It's a World War II novel that is told from the really interesting perspective of death. And now, again, I haven't read this book since I was in early middle school, but I remember feeling so surprised by who the voice of the narrator was, and also really, really connecting to the characters, which again was kind of what I felt like the ultimate drawback of Cloud Cuckoo Land was. So if you're looking for a book that is about a book, but is more of a character study, I think I would lean to The Book Thief. So, was this book worth the over 600 pages? Again, this is my own personal opinion. No, I don't think it was. This video was too long and it cut off because I was going to and on Anthony Doerr. Anyway, I'm Monica, being overly critical about this Pulitzer-winning author, so whatever. Anyway, if you liked what you saw and you want to hear more reviews, feel free to like or subscribe. You're watching Dog-Eared Musings. Happy reading!